Good morning.
Good morning.
How y'all doing today?
Good.
Did you enjoy this morning? Did you get up and notice what it was like out there this morning? That it was beautiful. I love this time of year because everything is beautiful all the time. And it's just great to get up. I'm so glad you're here today. Because today we're starting a brand new series called Guardrails. Guardrails? What in the world is guardrails? What does that have to do with anything? Well, we're going to look at it just a little bit, and we're going to find some things that you and I need because we have some issues that we need to deal with. Have you ever seen a baby bed? No, I've never seen a baby bed. I don't know what they are. Have you ever seen a baby bed? I mean, you know, it's a small bed, and it has rails all the way around it. The rails are close enough together so that the baby can't get his face up in there. It's meant to protect the baby. It's meant to keep the baby inside where he's supposed to be. Now, when the baby gets older and he can begin to walk, he will crawl over the rails and get out of the baby bed. At that time, it tells you you don't need the baby bed anymore. You need something else. But a baby bed has guardrails around it. And it's okay that we use those for us when we're babies. But we're adults. We don't really need guardrails today. Or do we? You know, we do have guardrails today. If you drive down the road, every bridge has guardrails on each side of the bridge. Unless you're way out in the country, and some of them don't, you got to be careful with those. But they have guardrails. And every curve on the highway will have guardrails. Every steep drop-off will have a guardrail there. And here's the thing. Have you noticed they're damaged? Have you noticed people have run into the guardrails? You'll see signs on the highway that says damaged guardrail ahead. Somebody has run into the guardrail. But they are meant to protect us and kind of direct us, to show us where they need to go. But as we talk about guardrails, there's something that you need to know. Culture is not real high on it. For instance, Billy Graham had a rule. It's called the Billy Graham rule. He said, I will never ride in a car alone with a woman who is not my wife. I will never have dinner alone with a woman who is not my wife. I will never travel abroad alone with a woman who is not my wife. And it worked very well for Billy Graham. His entire life went by, his entire ministry went by, and he retained his integrity. He never had a moral failure. His guardrail kept him safe. Now, people didn't really say much about Billy Graham's rule, but when Mike Pence came out a while back and said, you know what, I have a rule that I will never ride in a car alone with a woman who is not my wife. I will not have meetings alone with a woman who's not my wife. I will not travel abroad alone with a woman who's not my wife. He was kind of poo-pooed. You know what I mean? People said, oh, that's ridiculous. Why in the world would you do that? And they even wrote articles that said, you know what? That discriminates against women. That's going to keep them from rising up because he has a rule that he won't do that. I don't think that Mike Pence was real worried about it because he wasn't saying, this is a rule for everyone. This is the rule that I have followed. And he's been in public life a long time, and he's not had no moral failures in that way because he had a guardrail that kept him safe and pointed him in the right direction. Now, there are others who haven't. Another politician. There are all sorts of politicians who have affairs and get involved with other women or other men. But they didn't have the rule. They didn't have the guardrails around them. They didn't say, okay, I'm never going to be alone with a member of the opposite sex who's not my spouse anywhere at any time. And they paid the price for it. And yet, culture says you don't really need guardrails. You just don't need them. Instead, I think what you need are just painted lines. You know, guardrails are built in the safe area. If there were a guardrail right here, it wouldn't be built down there. It'd be built right here on the edge of the safe area. And it would take up some of the space up here, but it would keep me from going off. But culture says you don't really need that. You just need a painted line right there. So you can use the full, the full edge here. You can do whatever you want to do. Now think about this for a minute. How do painted lines work? I mean, in reality, on the highway, not so good. We're going to take down the guardrails on the bridges. We're going to take down the guardrails on the curves. We're going to take down the guardrails where there's a steep drop-off. The problem is, all those damaged guardrails, all those places where we've run into, suddenly are gone. And people are going to go down the cliff. But they said, that's all you need is painted lines. I'm not talking about, they would say, we're not talking about highways. You need some things there. But in your life, all you need are just some painted lines. For instance, let me give you a for instance. When it comes to certain issues, they have something that they would say. For instance, dating for teenagers. Sexual relations for teenagers. The painted line is this: don't have sex until you're ready. It sounds reasonable. It was probably thought up by a girl, because girls are much better at thinking, what am I ready for and what can I do and those sort of things. But let me ask you this question. If you went to any teenage boy in America and you said, don't have sex until you're ready, in their mind they're thinking, dude, I was born ready for this. It's a painted line, but it really doesn't give us much help, does it? It doesn't really direct us. It doesn't really protect us. There's some other painted lines that they talk about as well. They talk about follow your heart. Just follow your heart, which seems like good advice, except that when someone has offended me, when somebody's done something to my family, if I followed my heart, they would be dead and ripped up into little bitty pieces. But I followed my heart. I just did what my heart told me to do. Painted lines just don't seem to work. We need guardrails. Mike Pence is glad that he has them. Other politicians are sad that they don't. You see, if you have a guardrail, it's not going to be celebrated, but it's going to protect you. And you're going to have less regrets because of your guardrails. So this morning, here's what I want to do. I want to look at a passage of Scripture written by Paul to a group of people in the town of Ephesus, the community, the local church there that met together from time to time. And he says some things about how we should live, about what we should do, and how to be successful at life. And he got this information from Jesus. And so he's basically saying, this is what Jesus says we should do. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. Be very careful then how you live. Be careful. That's the thing we use all the time. Oh, be careful. Be careful on that ladder. Be careful with those scissors. Be careful as you're driving home. Just be careful. That's not what Paul's saying. He's not just saying this mantra that we say to people all the time about being careful. He's saying, be careful how you live. Now what's interesting is, in the original translation of that, it says basically, be careful how you walk. Be careful how you walk. Imagine this. You own a very large dog. Dogs are wonderful, so if you own a large dog, you own a wonderful large dog. Dogs are wonderful, but you own this large dog, but you have him in a very small yard. Now, chances are pretty good that you're going to be very careful how you walk in that yard. Because where you step can cause you all sorts of gooey problems. You're careful how you walk, and that's basically what he's saying there. Be careful how you walk. Be careful how you live. Pay attention. Do it as wise, not as unwise, but as wise. You know, when we think of wisdom, we usually think of, well, let's follow the rules. Let's keep the law. That would be good. But you know what? There are times that you can keep the law, that you can follow the rules, that it's just going to get you into trouble. It's not going to help you in any way. Oh, I kept the rules. Oh, you can't arrest me for anything, but it caused tons of problems for me. But instead, he says, be wise. Now, what is wisdom? I look at it this way. Wisdom is considering your past experiences, considering your present circumstances, considering my future hopes and dreams. What should I do? It changes things a little bit. Not just what's the rule, but what should I do based upon my past experiences, my present circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams. Let me give you an example. Suppose you work at a job, and at your job you have a boss, as we most of us do. And let's say your boss is not the brightest bulb. Let's say that your boss makes some errors from time to time, says some things that are just not right, and offends people all the time. And finally, you've had enough. You are sick and tired of it, and boy, you're going to tell them exactly how the cow ate the cabbage. Now, the rule says, the law says, you have free speech. You can do whatever you want to do. But I don't think it's going to turn out well. What if we considered our past experiences? You ever had an experience in your life where you smarted off to somebody in authority? Maybe you've never done that. Maybe you're a really wonderful person. When I was in high school, I smarted off to one of my coaches one time. I said something I shouldn't say, but I was a starter. What difference would that make? But my coach picked up basketballs and threw them at me with great velocity and chased me all around the gym and said, "You will never say that again." It was a mistake. So in light of my past circumstances, my past experiences didn't go so well. Well, present circumstances. Let's think about this. You are at a job, and you're making money, and you're paying your bills, and you're able to eat. That's a pretty good thing. I mean, you've already covered one of the basic things in life. You are eating. And so you have a job, may not be the most pleasant job, but you're able to eat because of the job. How will that be affected? By what I say. Might he say, "You're no longer employed here"? And if you've never been unemployed, it feels okay the first day. But the second day, you start thinking, I have no money to pay my bills. I have no way of making it, and panic sets in. So I'd consider that. And then I'd also consider my future hopes and dreams. Most of us are not happy exactly where we are. We might someday want to become the boss, either where we are or some other place. And if we get into that position, how are we going to feel about one of our employees who thinks that we're ignorant? Because it's going to happen. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you do, employees always think that the employer is ignorant. And they're going to smart off to me. Now let's suppose that you smarted off when you were younger, and there's somebody there who knows that you smarted off. And they're going to say, "Well, he did it. I can do it." But how's it going to make your day? I mean, you've got the power, you can dismiss the employee, but it's going to ruin your day, isn't it? So you think about those things, and you think about what's wise. Not what's permissible, but what is wise? What would be the wise thing to do? The wise thing to do would be, you know what? I got it pretty well. I don't want the problems I've had in the past, and I don't want to cause problems for myself in the future. I think I will just stay where I am and bite my tongue. So, be wise, not unwise. Making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Making the most. You make the most of every day. You get up and say, boy, it's a great day. I'm going to make the most of it. Somebody's coming in and there's a problem. I'm going to make the most of it. Something really good's going to happen. I'm going to make the most of it. See, we struggle with that. At least I do. I ran track in high school and college. In high school, I did okay. When I got to college, it was a little bit different. I ran the 400 intermediate hurdles. And 400 intermediate hurdles are maybe the stupidest event in track. You run a quarter of a mile and you run over hurdles in between. I found out about a guy who was a champion at this, and I found out his workout routine. And I looked at it and I said, there is no way I'm ever going to do that. That is too much work. I will do my workout. I will go run. I didn't win. I placed sometimes and things like that. But that is just too much work. See, I never reached my full potential. I never reached what I really could be because I wasn't willing to pay the price to get there. Making the most of every opportunity. See, what we don't understand is that the days are evil. What that really means is there's somebody out there against you. When I played basketball in high school, we ran drills. And we would run our offense. We might have somebody out there standing, but we would just run our offense. You pass here, you run here, you set a screen here, you do all these sort of things. And we would run it, and it would go very well in practice. Because there really wasn't anybody trying to stop us. When we got in the game, however, suddenly I've got the ball, I've got to pass it over here, but there's somebody there. And they're standing in the way. What in the world is going on? See, that's the way life is. We can go through drills, we can do certain things, but there are going to be things that are against us. There's somebody that is against you. His name is Satan. Jesus said he has come to steal from you, kill you, and destroy you. There is somebody that wants to take everything that you do and turn it into something bad. Somebody who wants to take everything that you do and destroy you with it. Paul says, man, that's what's out there. Make the most of every day because they're evil. And therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. What is foolishness? Have you really thought about it? What would I consider foolishness? Well, I know this is going to sound strange, but hang here with me for a minute. Foolishness is following whatever you think. Following whatever you think is right. Whatever you think will get you more. If I have an idea or something, an opportunity comes up, well, I think I should do this. And following your own self, your own advice, is foolishness. How do I know? Because I've lived my life. And every time I've made my own choice, every time I've gone my own way, I've ended up further away from where I want to be than I am right now. And the world does it all the time. We tell people, just do what you think is right. But what we think is right can run from murder to bribery to whatever. That's foolishness. But instead, understand what the Lord's will is. See, here's the thing that I didn't get for years. And I was a believer. I was a minister. But I didn't understand that it wasn't about just living and doing what I thought was right. It was about following whatever God said to do. Our church here, one of the things that one of our basic premises is we meet together, we figure out what God is up to, and then we try to follow him into what he's doing. We're not trying to make huge plans apart from God, because that would be foolishness. But understanding what God's will is the key. God has a plan for you. He has a plan where your life can be successful. He has a plan where you will enjoy your life, where you will be satisfied with your life. And if I were to question you right now, and you were going to be honest with me, most of you would have to tell me there's some things in my life that I'm just not satisfied with. It's because we're following our own plan, not following God. Then it says, do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Now, how many of you know what debauchery is? Debauchery is horrendous. It's falling into sin, falling into missing the mark, falling into sexual things as a result. Do not get drunk on wine. Now, here's the thing. The Bible does not say you cannot have alcoholic beverages. I know that lots of churches will teach you that, and it's just not true. The Bible never says anything about drinking an alcoholic beverage that's bad. In fact, Paul talks to Timothy and he says, try some wine for your stomach to help it get better. But what it does say is, don't get drunk with wine. Don't be drunk with wine. It's a guardrail. It's okay to have a drink, but if you take it to the point where you go beyond that, that's a problem. Another painted line that culture tells you is drink responsibly. And that doesn't sound bad, but here's the deal. There are lots of people who are driving through the guardrails and who are going off and down the cliff or over the bridge. But the guardrails are there and they have held them back in. But if we take them away, there's just a painted line. Well, drink responsibly. A lot of people are not going to have any problem with that. Oh, yeah, I can drink responsibly. I can have a drink, and that's okay. But others, those who abuse it, those who overuse it, go beyond it all the time. They don't know what responsible is. I've just had a dozen beers. I'm responsible. That's the problem. It's a painted line. But think about this for just a minute. How many of your lives has been affected in some way by people overindulging in alcohol? Debauchery. How many children have come into the world because of overindulgence in alcohol? How many families have been torn apart by overindulgence? How many people have been in car wrecks where either they have been killed or somebody else has been killed by someone who has overindulged in alcohol? God doesn't say no, stay away from it. He says there are guardrails. There are things to stay in. There's something to protect you and to direct you on the path. But instead, be filled with the Spirit. Be filled with the Spirit. It sounds churchy, doesn't it? Be filled with the Spirit. Are you filled with the Spirit? Absolutely, I'm filled with the Spirit. But what he's really saying is this. Don't listen to yourself. Listen to God. Spend time with God. He's got a plan for your life that is going to give you more happiness, more contentment than anything else. See, God is not into it saying, hey, here's how you can serve me. God does not need me to serve him. He gets nothing from it. But instead, he loves me and wants me to have the life he created me for and that he has planned for me. And every time I go my own direction, I'm leaving that plan. And God is saying, be filled with the Spirit. Listen to me. In everyday life, whatever you're going through, listen to me. Build guardrails in your life where I tell you that you need guardrails. Stay within the boundaries because it's going to protect you and it's going to direct you. Over the next 3 weeks, we're going to be looking at guardrails. We're going to be looking at specific things that we can do to live the life that we've been created to live. And so here's my challenge to you today. This week, I just want you to ask the question, what do I need? What areas of my life are kind of pushing at the rails? What areas of my life are about to go over the cliff? do I need guardrails? And if you're bold, just turn to God and say, God, I think I got some problems in this area. I want to hear what you got to say. Help me to understand where I need guardrails to keep going in the direction you've created me for. I hope you'll do that this week. Because over the next several weeks, we're going to be looking at specific things that can absolutely make your life better. Next week, invite somebody with you to hear about the guardrails because every one of us needs it. I want to thank you for coming today.